Nice to see you again, man. How you doing?
Doing well, man. Doing well.
Yeah. Well, are you in Vermont right now?
I'm in New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm here in snowy Buffalo, New York. Love it.
Uh,
It's Buffalo love, but it's okay. But yeah, Kevin here. I asked no one. You're here. Thank you so much, brother. Um, Before we get into it, I just wanted to say today's musical fact of the day. Randy Castillo, he passed away today, March the 26th of 2002. Does that name ring a bell to you, the drummer?
yes. How long ago?
Yeah,
When
that
was
was it was Randy Castillo, the drummer. At the time, he was a drummer of Mötley Crüe instead of Tommy Lee, and they were just about to go on stage on tour with Anthrax and Megadeth. And he passed away in LA right before that tour, a stomach ulcer, pretty bad, at age 51. You know, from a drummer point of view, love Randy Castillo. I was jamming the Ultimate Sin record, getting pumped up to chill with Joe for a few minutes here, and yeah, his drums start that record. That was his first record with Ozzy. He was with Lita Ford. He was on the No More Tears record. Yeah,
I just can't believe it's been that long.
right,
But yeah, that's another fact is that's my favorite Ozzy album, and I know that's blasphemy for many people, but that is my absolute
dude.
ironic.
It's mine too. It's mine too. There's just something about it, right? The catchiness and everything.
I love the whole production. I think it's fun. I
Yeah,
think it's Lee's a monster.
right, right. I mean, you can't. It's hard to compete with the almighty Randy Rhoads and Diary of a Madman and Blizzard of Oz. But yeah, I wanted to share that. R.I.P. Randy Castillo, one of the greatest drummers, rock drummers of all time. And today's quote is by my buddy's late dad, who passed away just before we saw each other, met each other in December. John Lane, the father of Mike Lane, and he said, "Never be crooked." And that's stuck with me since then, you know, in the white lies that come here and there and shit like that. You know, R.I.P. John Lane, and shout out to John and Mikey. But yeah, we got Joe McGinnis here of Quarantine, Quarantine with a K, Kiss cover band, who I just so happened to see at the Whiskey A Go Go in LA in December. I would describe how we met, Joe, but I think it'd be a little bit more fun if you were to just I don't know, just describe how we met each other.
We were at the Hollywood Hollywood where we were watching a Wasp show. And I was with some of my quarantine bandmates, and I just happened to glance over and see that wonderful shirt you're wearing. And of
Yes.
course, that show for everyone. That's amazing. Kiss Animalize official merch. Uh,
Yeah.
Kiss that show. So, you know, I think I gave you a thumbs up, and next thing you know, we started talking. Of course, I looked a little bit different. I had my hair down. Of course, today, you know, it's a pain to deal with that hair sometimes. So throw it up like this and put on a hat for you. So I looked a little bit different, so you may not even recognize me right
Yeah, it's all good. I mean, yeah, your hair was down in this picture here that I picked up, signed at the whiskey.
now.
That is Joe, and that's the same dude right there. There you go. This is a killer band shot, I gotta say.
In Ohio.
Ohio. Okay.
Uh,
Nice.
so yeah, I guess we started talking. Thought it was pretty obvious that you were a Kiss fan, wearing that shirt. So I think I mentioned that we were playing at the Whiskey, and when people say, "Yeah, I'll be there, I'll be there," half the time you're like, "Sure," you don't think of anything of it. A lot of people say, "Yeah, I'll be at your show, I'll be at your show," but you were actually there, and I saw you, pumping your fist in the crowd, and that was a fun night. The Whiskey a legendary club, man. It was great to have you there. Obviously, great meeting new friends like yourself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right back at you, Joe. Yeah, it's one of the things that when I was at the whiskey, I was like, oh, I hope he kind of sees me. I mean, I don't know how you I look like Chris Farley in Beverly Hills Ninja in that pimp outfit, you know what I mean? And Yeah, just being on the floor there. I think, and I talk about this with previous guests, is showmanship when you're up on stage. You know, you're there, you're having fun, and we're all in this together. So it's like what you're projecting is really true, and we're having a good time, and you just yeah, smiles and everything, and ripping. That was a really fun set. But yeah, it was at the Roxy. Wasp and Armored Saint were playing. Um, John and Joey have been on I Asked No One before, so that was just killer. So thanks for sharing that. And the whiskey, this was the set list you guys played that
Oh,
I
that's
just so happened to score.
awesome. Oh, that was a fun set. Yeah, we had just added Fits Like a Glove.
Oh, really?
That was the first night we played it ever.
Huh. So this will be up here in my crypt, my office, one of these days with this really sweet picture. So the whiskey, are there any kind of bucket venues that you haven't played yet that you'd like to play?
Oh yeah, obviously MSG is always one of them, right? All the venues, most of them are pretty awesome. And I thought going into it, it's just another stage, but it's not just another stage. When you get there, you can feel, um, I don't even know how to describe it.
History.
I told someone else this too. I said, I haven't had that much fun at a show. I always have fun. But that night was extra special, and I can't explain why. It's just because it was the whiskey, I guess. Just so much history there, and I tried not to work myself up over it and say, oh, you're playing at, it's just another gig, and you go play for the audience that's there, and you have a great time. But something that I can't explain that night, I literally felt like I was 16 years old again, playing these, songs just, for fun in my bedroom, like it, but except you have everyone there and everyone's having a great time. And on top of that, some of my best friends are on stage with me. So, but that stage was just, it hit a little bit, a little bit different. It was a little bit more special, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, it's just amazing. Being at the whiskey, I lived in LA for 2 years and 2 years in San Diego before that, and just the walk from from the Roxy to the whiskey, or whatever, or the whiskey back down to the Rainbow. There's something about it that's just especially in a shirt like this, on a Saturday night. I mean, it was December the 14th of 2024. It was the night after we saw the Metallica All Within My Hands show at the YouTube Theater, which is attached to the SoFi, which is another state-of-the-art, really badass venue. Um, but yeah, the whiskey, check. Props, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
And the group and we had dinner at the Rainbow, and right before the show, and then we went to the Wasp concert there, and yeah, a great time. What a special night! Excellent meeting you, like I said, and it was super cool that you wore that shirt. I think the other guys in the crowd, other guys in the band saw you in the crowd with it, so they made comments. So
Yeah, got some index fingers from Jericho and shit, and yeah, it was fun. I mean, I will candidly say I'm not the biggest know-it-all Kiss fan. Metallica are my 55 times around the world and stuff like that, but something about those 80s records are just so fun, fun to listen to, and let's put the X in sex. And there's a song called Silver Spoon that you guys covered off the Hot in the Shade record, and that appeared on the Billboard mainstream rock charts. You're
yeah,
playing whiskey, you get a song like that. I mean, that's pretty fucking cool.
sometimes I look back, on how this all started, and still go, you're in a band with these guys, and not just just any guys. You got, our drummer is the drummer for Luke Bryan, who happens to be one of my best friends, Kent Sluger. But he plays with Luke Bryan, who's the American Idol judge, but he's also a country megastar. But then you have PJ Farley from Trickster and Fozzy, um, and then you have Charlie Para from South America, who's a famous YouTuber. Yep, there he is. And of course Chris Jericho, who's a legend. Uh, and these guys are such great guys. If you could just imagine for a minute, you know, lucky enough to be in a band with one of your friends, let alone four others. So we have a great time. We always agree on the common thread that is 80s Kiss, and how great it is. Of course, we love all eras of Kiss, and we also love other types of music. We geek out on other stuff, but Kiss is our main thing. 80s Kiss for sure.
Yeah, and your collective is called Quarantine with a K. That was founded during the quarantine, I take it. It was just something as a release.
So so basically, yeah, when everyone was home and doing nothing, it was everyone was kind of down and out because you had no gigs to play. And when you're a musician, that's your livelihood. Like you truly look forward to getting that reciprocating energy from an audience, and when you don't, it's pretty upsetting. So I was on the phone with my friend and the drummer Kent, and I said, "Why don't we just mess around and do some YouTube videos, and we'll do Kiss covers, and we'll call it Quarantine with a K." And I popped that off, the top of my head like that, and it was just one of those quick little things that I didn't even think anything about. I just kind of said it, and then he kind of, giggled a little bit, and so we started working on No No No. Well, he sent it to Chris Jericho. Well, I had many you know common friends. Like we've had many common friends, but we had never actually met. So it was funny. He sent that little clip to Chris Jericho and said, "Guess this song." And Chris said, "Oh, that's easy. That's No No No." And while he was at it, he said, "Do you need a singer?" And so Kent told me that, and I was like, "Well, yeah, I guess that'd be pretty awesome." So I kind of brushed it off, thinking, he's too busy, he won't be able to do that. And the man, during the quarantine, it was quarantine with the Q. Everyone was just, kind of, at home, just kind of taking it easy, including Chris Jericho. So he agreed, and he said, "I think I have a bass player that would be interested too," and that was PJ. Once again, a lot of mutual friends, common friends but we had never met. And it started as the four of us. And next thing you know, we have a text thread going, and we're talking about our favorite Kiss songs. And Chris says, if we're gonna do this, we're doing it big. We're not, I do nothing that's half-assed. Basically, it has to be legit, and we're gonna do this right. And I was like, okay, wow, let's see what we can do here. So we released No No No. That had some success, and then we did Heart of Chrome with Bruce Kulick. And then I think it was 2021, late 2021, we added Charlie because we needed a second guitar player. And what a monster Charlie is! Just an incredible player, super nice guy. Um, just so lucky that we have such a great group of people. So great.
Sweet. Yeah, the Ayatollah of rock and rolla. That's Jericho. I mean, going to see WWE back in the day, the Attitude Era, and those kind of moments with Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, and plugging your ears with those fireworks that he'd be coming out. Yeah, he I remember when Fozzy first came out, and you've described Chris Jericho as the quintessential frontman.
Yeah.
So what did you mean by that, if you just want to explain that a little bit more?
Well, truthfully, I truthfully believe that he is one of the greatest frontmen. I think he was born in the wrong time. He should have been an 80s frontman. He should have been competing with the likes of David Lee Roth and Paul Stanley. But he stems a lot from them. Like he gets a lot of his inspiration from them. But he's just been in this business of entertainment for so long. You can't help but respect, how much experience he has with being on a stage, and it's pretty impressive. Give you an idea, we played the Civic Center in Marion, Illinois, and you get a bunch of people in there, and he entertains the same way that he does when we play some smaller clubs. And it doesn't matter if he has any props. It doesn't matter, he can make anything entertaining, I guess. And I guess that's truthfully the best asset of any front man, in my opinion, is keeping people's eyes and ears busy. And he sure does that, 110% all the time.
Yeah, he's definitely magnetic up there. In particular, the first time I saw him outside of the ring was Louder Than Life down in Louisville, Kentucky in 2021. And that was September of 21. That was the first show for all these bands after the pandemic. And it was a side stage. I'm waiting for Metallica. So we got they were on earlier in the day, Fozzy, and then Mudvayne got sick, so Breaking Benjamin came in on this stage, and then it was Judas Priest. For my first time finally seeing, I'm embarrassed to say the first time I saw Priest was 2021. So it went Fozzy, Priest, and then right after Priest was Metallica. And yeah, just even being down the rail looking over there, you could tell how much he was enjoying that shit.
Yeah,
And yeah, I believe it. I believe it, Joe.
yeah. I mean, he just he puts so much into it, and after a show when we're talking about the show, he his brain never stops thinking about how to make it better. So we'll be talking after a show and I like this part. Maybe we should do this next time, or what about if, I saw you did this. That's cool. Keep doing that. Or, little things like that. And that to me shows the amount of effort that he puts into, entertaining and takes this really serious, which is funny, whether it's, you're on stage wearing that, flamboyant outfit, that he wears with the Paul Stanley replica jacket. Everything down to that to the stage props that get thrown up. I'm sure you saw some of those. Everything is entertainment, and it's for the fun and for the experience. For the fans that come out and we just have a blast with it. And we're very lucky to have him on board. Like I said, he goes all in, and it's great.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, you look down the stage, you got Chris Jericho. You look at the Billboard rock charts. Oh, that's something that I played on. These are all really cool moments that you've accumulated over the years, post-pandemic in particular. Now, you're in New York right now. I'm in New York. Where in New York are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Upstate. I'm really close to the Canadian border, so
You're
it's
like Plattsburgh?
yeah, yeah, very close to Plattsburgh. Yep, yep.
Okay.
And I have a lot of roots in this area. A lot of my family, or a lot of my family's from, and there's no place like home, as they say. I could do without the snow sometimes, but I'm used to it. This is my life growing up, and like I said, everyone's close by. I get to visit my mother, and my older brothers are musicians as well. So we have a good time, and I have a great family here too. So it's nice to be around them.
Sweet. So we're fellow upstate New Yorkers.
Yeah.
Well, people think of New York, they think of the metropolis of New York City and downstate, but there's so much more that our state has to offer. And you go up to Plattsburgh, you're getting to the Thousand Islands, and which is not too far from Montreal. Then you go up a little further, Quebec City. It's a lot to offer. So back when you're jamming in your room in upstate New York, just having these dreams, maybe what's something, and you were trying to get your career started. Again, we have Joe McGinnis here, of the guitarist of Kuarantine and country musician. What's one thing that you wish you knew when you were starting off that you know right now?
Okay, so that's definitely a loaded question because I have a lot of, you know, like I said, I have older brothers and sisters, but my older brothers being musicians, and my mother was a musician. Father, when he was alive, they were all musicians. So they had kind of done a lot of the, trial and error before me. So I kind of saw some of that. But, there are things that I learned later. Basically, there's no substitute for hard work. No, you could wish and hope all you want. Um, Nothing's going to be handed to you. You have to really work at, following your dreams. And sometimes, you learn that later, and you're thinking, wow, I wish, I was trying to, learn how to play guitar and do this and juggle many things when, a lot of it is about, the ride getting there for sure. But, you definitely could, speed up the process by, putting in a little bit of extra work. And it took me a couple of years to realize, do things right the first time so you don't have to do them again. And if you want to learn a guitar solo or write a guitar solo, put all that time and energy into it and make it as great as it can be. And as they say, the cream rises to the top. So eventually, if you work hard at something, you'll succeed. And I truly believe that. But like the young me, playing in clubs, you watch many movies where people walk in to a bar room and see a band playing. Hey, we're going to hand you a contract. That's not how the music business works. Some people may get lucky, um, but 99% of them, you got to hustle and you got to really work hard and you got to get out there and meet people and create relationships and friendships. And that's half the battle of getting where you want to be. And I still have a lot of goals and a lot of things that I want to work on for sure, whether it's for my country music or quarantine or any future situation I might find myself in. But yeah, hard work, there's no substitute.
No, definitely. Excuse me, definitely no substitute for that. When I ask this question because I think of my friends here in Buffalo who are, yeah, I mean, they're realtors or they're bankers or whatever, but they mean it and they need to pay their bills, but at the same time, they work really freaking hard going to Nashville, bumping shoulders with some of these people, recording down there, hoping, praying, but at the same time, working hard, going out there on tour, like around the world. I don't know how much money they're losing or whatever, but it's just really hard work, networking, and
Mm-hmm.
and I think what you just shared there, I'd like to share with some of my buds there who are great songwriters in their own right. And um, country wise, what's if you could tell us about your country career? Are you the next Luke Bryan or some shit?
So it's funny.
Eric Church?
It's funny. For many years, I kept kind of flip flopping. I started in a rock band, when I was 13 years old. And we played clubs. I mean, we did a lot of shows. I made a lot of money as a young kid, playing clubs. They used to say I was 18. That was the age you had to be to play in some of these clubs. But, my older brother would kind of fib to them and say, yeah, he's 18. And I was really 13, but I looked 18. So, but yeah, we would go into these clubs and play, all sorts of, we'd play like Rat and Kiss and all those, great bands, stuff like that. But at the age of like 17, I, started listening to country a lot more and kind of taking it serious. And that's kind of when I kind of fell into that rabbit hole of like, wow, there's some really great stuff. Because, all music is kind of related in one way or another. Like, a drum beat that you maybe use for country, eventually, that same time and drum beat could work for a metal song, believe it or not. So all music is related, and dismissing something because of its genre, I've I've always been open minded when it comes to music. So I always loved country music. So I said, if I want to play in a rock band and if I want to do country music, I'll do both. I don't I don't limit myself to saying, well, you're just a country guy or you're just a. I did it for a while, and I guess you could say that's another thing. That I know now that I wish I would have, implemented back then. Just don't worry about what people think. You go out and do your thing. If you want to have long hair, play in a rock band, then you want to put it up in a hat and play country, that's cool too. But for me, that's like, you can't put limits and restraints on yourself. So country music, like I said, I started doing that when I was 17. Eventually I quit the rock band. Um, Started, hustling with that a little bit, going to radio stations and but the hard work comes into writing songs and writing quality songs, um, and that's something I'm still working on. I mean a tough craft right there, songwriting. So I've written a lot of songs, had some of them on the radio. I've opened up for a lot of national acts that sold some records and a lot of fun stuff like that. Very parallel to the rock world. Um, but as far as the country thing goes, I'm still looking forward to seeing where that takes me as well.
We'll certainly keep a lookout for that. I mean, it was Metallica's inaugural festival, the Orion Festival in 2012, and they had Eric Church as direct support. And here we are, us metalheads, and my girlfriend, and now my current wife, like loves country, plays it. I'm learning all these songs, and yeah, just seeing Eric Church up there with his Jack Daniels holster and his mic stand, and his shit kickers, boot just kicking around, and yeah, that turned me on to that world,
Yeah,
and props, brother.
yeah. Well, thanks. I mean, like I said, dismissing certain genres because of their stereotypes. I was one of those people too. When my mother would play country music in the car, I always said, "Man, this music makes me car sick." Shut it off. But as you develop an ear and you become a serious musician, you say, "Wow, that's pretty impressive." There's a lot of amazing country guitarists, a lot of amazing songwriters, a lot of great singers. So, you know, I find that to be inspiring. And like I said, I'm just going to keep working at that as well. And it's been a little while. I kind of the quarantine thing, keeps me busy too. So I don't get to release as much music as I did maybe 3 4 years ago. But I am working on actually a new album, but it's taking me a little while. But we'll get there.
Well, as far as dream collaborators go, you said you've opened up for some of these country acts, and that's awesome. Who were they, and are there other collaborators in the country or metal scene that you'd love to partner up with in the studio or on stage?
Yeah. So we've opened we Old Dominion, one of my favorites. We got to open some shows with them. We opened for um, Dylan Scott, who's had quite a few number ones. We did a show with Florida Georgia Line. I think they split up though. Some of the legends too. Lone Star. Neil McCoy. I did some stuff back then with another band I was playing, and we opened for them. So a lot of great stuff like that. But as far as country collaborators, oh boy, there's so many. Big fan of Alan Jackson and George Strait. But as far as newer guys, there's so many great ones. I don't know. I have to think about that one a little bit more. But as far as rock guys, that's a hands down. Would love to work with Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons, obviously. But that's definitely a dream. Yeah,
You ever met them before?
I've met those guys. Yeah.
How was
Uh,
that?
tell you, met Paul. Paul was fantastic. He was very inspirational. We talked for quite a while, and at the time, uh, for some reason, I couldn't find my phone. To get a picture. So I'm freaking out. Like, first of all, like I'm hanging out with Paul Stanley. We're backstage, and Doc McGee got us backstage. Said, "Come hang out," and we were back there. And I'm scrambling. I'm wearing, you know, shorts for some reason. I cannot find my phone to get a picture. So the security guy has a phone, and I asked him, I said, "Will you take a picture?" And Paul says to the guy, "You make sure he gets that picture." And just the fact that that Paul sat there and talked, that he wasn't in a rush, he didn't care. He's so cool, um, and just so polite. Because they say don't meet your heroes, be disappointed, but he wasn't disappointing in the least. And Gene has always been like a sweetheart whenever I've been around him. He'll pat you on the head. He'll be just overly sweet, and he just a nice guy. All those guys. I think I've met all of the living members. I guess at this point. Um, I never obviously met Eric Carr and those guys. But yeah, I'm close friends with Bruce Kulick. So that's another pinch yourself moment. One of the greatest guitarists. From that era, in my opinion, very underrated. Getting to become friends with him over the past 5 years has been surreal, and just a great guy, incredible player, and he's kind of like a mentor. He teaches me things, and he kind of gives good insight because he's been there and done that. He helped me get an endorsement deal with ESP Guitars. one that you might have seen me play. It
Yeah, the
was
yellow one, was it?
old, yeah. But
Beautiful.
Bruce has been super helpful, great guy. Like criminally underrated play.
Yeah, what are some deep cuts that we got to check out from Bruce Kulick with Kiss and maybe outside of Kiss? Because yeah, you guys you've recorded together. You said you're buddies now. I mean, yeah, pinch yourself. And they do that. You're totally right. They say, and Scott Ian of Anthrax, I think he had a podcast, Never Meet Your Heroes, or a book or something. Um, and what we do here, in particular with you, Joe McGinnis, episode number 112. My quarantine project here is now with you. Bruce Kulick. Wow. What were some songs that are some of your go-to shredders from Bruce with his Kiss days?
Well, no, no, no from Crazy Nights. But Love's a Deadly Weapon. I mean, he just unleashed on those. But that's his really fast, shreddy stuff. But one great thing about his playing is his vibrato is up there with some of the greatest in my opinion. Him and his brother Bob Kulick are just you know incredible with vibrato, and that's something that I wish I could. I try my best to replicate that one, especially when I play his era of music. And I was lucky enough to play with Bruce. We played the whole Kiss Alive 3 album, and that was a lot of fun. But as far as checking out his tracks, the Crazy Nights album, just incredible. Almost every song, the solos killer. His tone's great. Um, Anything off Asylum, great stuff. And of course, he played with Grand Funk Railroad. I saw them live. Are great too. He shines so much. He's a great player.
Do you know what Brian May of Queen's favorite Kiss song is?
Crazy, crazy nights.
Damn, I thought I was gonna stump you. Okay. Um, shit. Yeah, because apparently Kiss when they played, they just like, oh, are you gonna play Crazy Nights? You're gonna be play Crazy Nights, and yeah, Bruce Kulick. What was your most recent conversation like with him, if you don't mind me asking there? Do you remember?
We text on a fairly regular basis. And we talked about the new Off the Soundboard that Kiss is releasing from his era. Um, we've talked guitars an awful lot. He did say he was sending me one of his miniature Asylum guitars. The little models there from Axe Heaven, I think it's called. He said, "Hey, I'm going to send you one of those." So that should be in the mail anytime this week. But we talk about guitars. We talk about you know, geez, pretty much anything. Just a great guy. Overall, you never know. Where our text threads may lead us. Whether it's just him and I, or if it's we had one with Todd Kearns and Joey Casada when we played the Alive 3 album in its entirety. We were talking about all sorts of stuff in there. Yeah, Bruce and I text regularly, and it's usually based around guitars or Kiss, or you'll have a question for me, or I'll have a question for you.
Yeah, your pals. That's just the coolest thing ever, man. Wow. Um, Driving back from the gym this morning, I was feeling some great white. So I put on some Save Your Love, Save Your Love, and just reminded me how many good ballads are from that decade. Some good power ballads. I know it became pretty popular for bands to release the power ballads in the late 80s, but Save Your Love, I gotta say, man, it's just like in RIP Jack Russell. Um, that is what a magical, beautiful song that is. Are there, I know Tears Are Fallen has a really funny music video tied to it with Kiss, with these like tears coming down the guitar. And it's just a funny thing that my twin brother and I will like watch when we're having some beers and just laugh about it. And just what Paul Stanley, some of the things he's doing in there, you know. Give me some 80s Kiss ballads that I should check out.
Uh, Forever obviously is probably their biggest power ballad, I guess. Every Time I Look at You from Revenge is great. Um, Reason to Live from Crazy Nights. That's Bruce has a killer solo on that, but that's a great melodic song. Reason to Live, I think, is as far as like an power ballad. That's pretty legit. Definitely want to check that one.
I will. I will.
A few, heavy hitters right there.
Yeah, the Crazy Nights record I don't own. Because of our chat, I am gonna buy that CD and really dive into it.
I'm telling you, it's phenomenal. Paul Stanley sings his ass off. I mean, overall, if you like Ultimate album, like production is very similar. Songwriting incredible. The guitar playing is incredible, and it's a little bit poppier side of Kiss, in some areas, but then you have your heavier stuff like No No No, and Gene has some great songs on the record. Man, start to finish, there's not a bad song on that album. On Jericho's podcast, we did Revenge versus Crazy Nights Throwdown, and that was pretty interesting. So in our eyes, it's one of their best records.
Is Jericho still doing his podcasts here and there? I know.
Uh-huh. We just did some Midwest tour dates, and when we were out on the road, we were going to record another podcast. Asylum, something like that. Like we'd like to do these, ultimate album throwdowns, and we just didn't have time. It was a little too hectic. Getting up early at a hotel and then going to the next town is, you know, sometimes you require a couple hours sleep at the very least.
Well, that's your career. Bad fucking ass. Again, we have Joe McGinnis here of Quarantine with a K, country musician. And if you liked what you've seen so far, like, subscribe, really, really appreciate it. Just to switch gears here. Um, Here in Western New York, I'm really involved with the suicide prevention community and just really getting the word out with crisis services and the Suicide Prevention Coalition of Erie County. So uh, my goal too is to be happy, what you're doing. You're pursuing these kind of things that make you feel good, make you feel happy. It's just to help get that suicide rate down to zero. Um, your band is called Quarantine, and coming out of the pandemic and post, it's become a thing where younger and younger people are taking their own lives, and a lot of it has to do with this and comparing each other and just being stuck to this instead of
Yes.
what's in front of you and enjoying relationships. So for every new subscriber, I make a donation to the crisis service here in the coalition. And maybe Joe, how has suicide personally impacted you?
Well, it's a terrible thing, obviously. Growing up, uh, there was numerous uh, took their own lives, and it was, awful, absolutely awful. And I can't even imagine what their parents felt. Uh, these were good kids, and they um, were obviously internally unhappy. It's just awful. And I'm a really big advocate for mental health and making sure that everyone, is aware. You have to go and you have to fight and seek help. You can't let these things go because life is a precious thing. You have to take care of your mental health just like you take care of your physical health. And I've watched my wife's friends, that had taken their lives as well. And this is just, you know, like you said, if we get that down to zero, that'd be great. Uh, no one should have to suffer that bad to the point where they want to take their own lives. Um, really unfortunate. And like you said, social media is, you know, um, instigator. I think it's just people have enough issues, let alone comparing yourself to someone else or getting bullied or what have you. There's a lot of people out there hurting, and if we could, make this awareness, come to the surface, people know to get help, that there's ways to recover and out of that darkness. I don't know. It's a very you know very depressing subject for sure, but you need to talk about it and give these people help.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, depression absolutely has no face. I know in your business in the music industry with the substance abuse and the anxiety and the pressure to write and to perform, I think of people, the list is endless, but Taylor Hawkins with Foo Fighters and Scott Weiland in particular with substance abuse. And then a little bit more recently, with Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington, these guys who seemingly have everything that they possibly could have, the home, the family, everything, and you just don't know what's going on inside. That's why, smiling at a stranger that could make their day, it could make the choice to take their own lives, pause a little bit. The best utility is time, putting something in between those thoughts, and it's really just getting it out. Therapy is not a one size fits all for people. There's resources out there. The 988 crisis lifeline is, as of a few years ago, available in all 50 states. So you need an unbiased ear to talk to anyone out there, 988. And if what Joe and I are talking about here could help one person, I think I Ask No One is an absolute success. And I get asked a lot what I Ask No One is. And it's besides being a line from Metallica's Wherever I May Roam, it's really embracing just being yourself. And sometimes it's easier said than done, but everybody is imperfectly perfect. And it's fine to just talk about it and get it out. Um, I've had major depression since 2016. I take my daily medicine. Sometimes I got to switch it up every few years, but having those family and friends close by you, lean in on those people and lean on your fucking 80s Kiss and blast that shit because isn't that some feel good stuff, right?
But
So,
finding the things in life that make you happy. Like I said before, not putting limits because you feel like you just got to let loose, and you really have to find what makes you happy, whatever it may be. As long as you're not hurting anyone else, as long as you're, you know, trying to make yourself happy in life. That's huge. And don't let anyone ever tell you any different. You just enjoy your life and just take it easy. And here's another thing too: is sometimes you can't take things so seriously. Sometimes you do have to find the humor in life, or uh, with things that may seem serious. That's really the only way to handle the crazy world we live in. Sometimes is it is what it is, and kind of sometimes you get laugh at things, sometimes it's not worth laughing at, and sometimes it's something you shouldn't laugh at. But at the very least, you can't take it to heart, because most people are good people. If you have someone that you know is there as a support system, that's even better. And that's, like you said, it's huge with mental health, is having a good support team, great people, and great music like 80s Kiss, or whatever you may like, right?
yeah. Thanks, McGinnis. Really appreciate that. And the yeah, so again, any's a new subscriber, I make a little donation there, and it's been a great way to get this a nice little platform to get it out. So thanks for that. And Joe, I got a question for you. Has anyone ever told you look like Conor McGregor with your hair up?
Come on. Seriously? No. I've all right. So I've had people tell me I look like AJ Styles, Justin Timberlake, uh, and been a couple of them. The younger me, I used to get to Justin Timberlake a lot. But then,
Curls?
yeah,
Curls?
but no, never Conor McGregor. But we are Irish. McGinnis is very Irish, so there's very good possibility that we're related and may look alike. I'll take.
I want to make sure I get a picture of Connor. I know some of his decisions lately, and it's just been suspect, but yeah, it's the eyes, and I think the Irish thing definitely has something to do with it.
Yeah,
But yeah, you're writing country stuff. which is awesome. And quarantine, bring it on with some more performances here, in Western New York. I do an annual I Ask No One festival here in Buffalo, and who knows, maybe someday you'll play my very own festival. But what's next for you and you guys these next few months and this next year?
Well, right now, well, coming up actually tomorrow, new quarantine single, Turn on the Night. So we're pretty proud of that. That's going to be hitting rock radio tomorrow, and it'll also be on all streaming platforms. We got that plug there. So that's what's new with quarantine. We have some shows that we're working on, the Midwest, possibly West Coast later this year. We just played the show in Vegas at the Whiskey, as you know. So it's a possibility that that we'll be back out that way later. So, as far as the country stuff, like I said, I'm plugging away on that album. It's taking me forever. Um, every single time I take a step forward, I take two steps back because as a perfectionist and someone who, like I said, hard work. The harder you work at something, the luckier you get. So sometimes though, with art, the art is never finished. It's abandoned because it's never perfect in the eyes of the person who's creating. So sometimes, like I said, you have to ease up a bit and just kind of release it and say that it's done. So I have a couple tracks I'm working on there to finish up, and I'd like to release another single sometime soon with the country stuff. And I have some shows later this year with the country thing. So I'm really looking forward to that. And you never know. We usually play a cancer benefit. We just did one in Sarasota, Florida, with quarantine, where Bruce Kulick joined us on stage, and we played these like 8 or 9 songs with him there. And the day after, I got to play with Eric and Bruce, Zach Throne. We did a kind of a 4-piece thing where we played a couple songs from the Revenge album. That was a lot of fun. Going forward, you never know what the future holds. We may end up doing another cancer benefit with those guys. We'll see.
Well, I'll include a link below to the new quarantine single dropping tomorrow. We'll keep a lookout for what's going on with Joe McGinnis. Man, thank you so much for taking the time. It was really nice to meet you in December, and nice to learn a little bit more about you.
Yeah, likewise, man. Like I said, that shirt is awesome, and it was the reason for this whole thing happening, right? So,
Yeah, Chris Farley and Beverly Hills Ninja.
what you're doing incredible. More people need to do things like this to get the word out and kind of get that rate down to zero, because at the way we're going, it's so sad to see so many people struggling in actual life. So I think what you're doing is incredible, especially with this the new subscriber thing, where you don't make a donation time. That's incredible. So the world needs more people like you, my friend.
Oh man, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And keep fucking rocking to our viewers. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay hungry, and stay heavy. Thanks, Joe.
Of course, man. Thank you.
Later. Have a good one. Enjoy time with your family.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
Later.
Motherfucker! Oh, Matt, can you zipper this for me? No. Yeah! I ask no one. It's a lifestyle, Oh, I can't. That's good enough for now. Doing your own thing, being you. Being bold.